Hello from Danahy Field in Cambridge, Mass, where we at ACMi are presenting the first of what we hope will be many Ultimate Frisbee games by our high school teams. We are here for the girls' game today against Cambridge High School. The Falcons, they are called at Cambridge High School, and our team, MAU, M-A-U, which we will explain in a little while. But nonetheless, the girls are currently the captains. You'll see on camera there are meeting in the middle of the field to do the coin flip, or in this case, the disc flip, which will determine which side the winning flip team decides to defend initially, and then we will get going with this game. So we're bringing you, as I said, the first Ultimate Frisbee game in ACMi annals, but hardly the first either between these teams or involved on these fields here at Danahy Park in Cambridge. Just behind Fresh Pond, this is a mecca, this park, for local Ultimate Frisbee, which happens at all levels. And in particular, throughout the summer, there are adult leagues that are using these fields every night of the week. And if you are not familiar with Ultimate as a sport, we'll go over the rules briefly. And it'll be a little bit easier once the girls are out on the field and getting ready for the pull. The pull is what would be usually called a kickoff in football. That's a pull. In Ultimate Frisbee, you'll see that the field is set up like a football field. It's a little bit longer than a football field, but it's set up in the same way with two end zones on opposite ends. And the sport is all scoring in the sport, I should say, is all about just catching the Frisbee in the opposite end zone from where you start. And you score a point for doing that with your team. And of course, I'm sure most of you are veteran Ultimate watchers, but you should know also that nobody can run with the Frisbee. The only way to move it up the field is to pass it to a teammate. Every passer has 10 seconds in which to select a teammate to throw it to and then complete that pass. If they fail to complete the pass, it is an immediate turnover. So failing to complete the pass is the defense intercepts it, knocks it down to the ground, or the Frisbee itself hits the ground without being caught. Any of those results in an immediate turnover, and the team that was on defense is immediately on offense and working the other way to try and catch the disc in the end zone they're aiming for and score a point that way. Generally, these high school games are played to a certain number of points, although sometimes they have to be time capped as well. I think today's game, there's plenty of time for it. We're getting going a little bit late, which is fairly common for Ultimate Frisbee. But I think we'll be going shortly and probably playing to a full 15 points or 13 points are usually the choices for high school games. So again, we will shortly be getting going with this game between Arlington High School's MAU girls ultimate team and the Falcons from Cambridge High. Stay tuned. And we're back as the teams are getting ready. Just final huddles here before stepping onto the field to start this game. I'll tell you, it has been an inhospitable spring for Ultimate Frisbee, as can often be the case, and for all outdoor sports, as can often be the case here in New England. But what looked like was going to be a very cloudy day today, the sun has broken through, and this is a good omen. So we are looking forward to watching some of the fun of Ultimate as well. You may have just seen that the Cambridge team, as they were lining up, there you might have heard a couple of whoops, and now the Arlington team on the far sideline has just made their opening cheer, and they'll have 7 girls step out to the line. So as you can see, it's a 7-on-7 sport. And here in high school, the coaches will often come onto the field, as you can see on the far end. Arlington's coach, Lauren Nelson, also known as Ralph. I'll be referring to her as Ralph. Ralph can come on the field, not during the play, of course, but between points. Coaches will come out and just give some final reminders, and some guidance, because all of the girls you're seeing on the field today, few of them have some years of experience behind them, but many of them are discovering Ultimate for the first time. This may be their first game ever, organized game ever. I'm sure that's the case in at least with at least a few of the girls on the two teams. But they're going to get a taste, and so are you, of the fun and just the good vibes that come from Ultimate Frisbee. And as Cambridge greets a late arriving player, and they raise their hand, ready for the pull, and there it is, making it almost to midfield. The field is quite long. It's 80 yards long from end zone to end zone, and then the end zones themselves are 20 yards. And you can see that Arlington starts to move the Frisbee up the field, but it hits the ground, and that means it is an immediate turnover, and it's now Cambridge disc. They are go up the field, and there's a turnover right away. So you can get a quick idea of the action that is quite constant in Ultimate. And the point is not over until one team scores or the other, and until then, it's continuous action. So Arlington has just turned the disc over again, and Cambridge has it. The girl who is guarding the thrower is counting. You can't hear it from here, you just have to take my word for that. But each marker, which is the defender who plays against the thrower, each marker, once they arrive on the thrower, they will begin to count. So now nobody's counting because nobody has guarded the thrower just yet. And there is another turnover. Cambridge picks up the disc, and that marker is now counting. If she gets to 10 without the thrower throwing, then that is a turnover as well. So, as mentioned before, throwers have 10 seconds to find a teammate and throw the disc. Otherwise, it is a turnover. Arlington has just tried throwing the disc backwards, which you can do out on the field. You can throw it in any direction you'd like within those 10 seconds, as mentioned. And that was very nearly a score, right down near the end zone, with the Arlington defender making a nice little defensive play, knocking the disc down to the ground. And Arlington comes up throwing. Oh, too bad. Receiver had it in her hands. Sometimes it's hard to hold on to that spinning disc. You can hear calls from the sideline as well of up, up. That means everybody on the field and off the field is trying to help those on defense by letting them know that somebody's thrown the disc and it's now up in the air, so people can look for it and see if they can turn and make a play on it, a defensive play. That's caught by the wrong team, and the turnover comes back the other way. And looks like this is going to be a long opening point, folks. We may be into double figures with turnovers in this point so far. There's a little bit of wind that is blowing behind the Dark or Arlington team at the moment. I should have mentioned earlier, I apologize, that again, just to remind you, Cambridge is in the white and Arlington is in maroon, traditional colors for Arlington High School sports. Here's one more thing I forgot to mention. My name is James Milan. I am ACMi's communications manager, but I am also a long time Ultimate Frisbee player and coach. So very happy to be here announcing ACMi's very first Ultimate Frisbee game. And I appreciate and want to appreciate my colleague Aneem the Dream Osmani, who is our sports producer at ACMi and has graciously agreed to take our Ultimate on as yet another of the spring sports that he is covering for Arlington High School this year. We all benefit from Aneem's ambition, I have to say, at ACMi. Oh, very nearly a score for Arlington as they work their way all the way down to the end zone. You can see that the Cambridge players now coming up to the front of the end zone. The end zone is marked by two cones that you can see about 35, 40 yards apart on the line that the thrower is right now. And then there are cones on the other side of the field as well, demarcating the other end zone. So point continues to be hard to come by here. Want to describe something about the defenses that are being played by the two teams as well. But we'll just wait for things to clear up a little bit. You can see that the Arlington team is not shy about throwing the Frisbee up as soon as they can to teammates who are working their way up the field. They're now only 5 yards away from the goal line. They have to be patient, and they've scored. That's Arlington 1, Cambridge nothing. You can see a couple of the players bent over and just recovering from that point because, as we mentioned, Ultimate is a sport for the fit, where it will make you that way if you don't start that way, because there is just a lot of running to be done, and again, the point doesn't end until one team scores. So we just saw a point with a lot of turnovers, a lot of momentum shifts within that point, and each one of those takes a certain amount of energy to get through. So you see the Cambridge team walking fairly slowly back to their now and their new end of the field. Now they're going to be heading the opposite direction from what they did on the first point. And Arlington getting some final instructions from their coach. Ralph is out there on the field to provide some guidance just before they pull for the second point. One thing about Ultimate Frisbee is that as it is played at the higher levels in terms of competitiveness, both in college and in club, by clubs at the adult level in around the country and around the world, there's been real efforts to speed the game up because these lulls right here can make it a little bit difficult to just kind of sustain spectator interest. So again, at the higher levels, there are time limits for how long you can have between points, etc. But what's happening here at this level is that the girls, as mentioned before, some of them are going to be brand new and they are learning as they go. And so the coaches are really teachers as well, and taking every opportunity to just nudge their students forward here. And there's a pull that gets past the halfway point. It will be picked up by the Cambridge player, and again, she will have now 10 seconds in which to pass. And you can see, if you look, that Arlington is playing a zone defense now. They had been playing a person defense on the previous point, which only means person defense is that one person marks up against each person on the other team, and you just play what is known as man-to-man defense or person-to-person defense. And the other option as a defense is zone defense, and that is what both teams for this point are attempting to play. And there you'll see that they form a small little cup. 3 players on Arlington's team are forming a small little cup around the thrower and making it hard for her to see where her options are. And there's a long pass in, almost to the goal line. Looks like Arlington is poised to score their second point. Oh, and there you have it. That's what can happen in ultimate. You have a wide open goal in your hands, and suddenly that Frisbee slips out of there. It can be fiendish in that way on occasion. Cambridge tries to get a lot in one go and doesn't quite work, but they've gained some yardage at least. And another turnover. Cambridge will start right down on their own goal line. This is a tough position to be in because you're trapped on the sideline. You can't see too many options. She did a good job just to get rid of the Frisbee and get it up the field somewhat, making Arlington have to work to get it into their own end zone. By the way, one of the issues with this being our first Frisbee game is that the teams themselves have not had opportunity to get us their rosters, and therefore I am calling most of this game, unless I can tell who players are, I will be calling most of this game without specifying who the individual players are, but that will change as we continue our coverage throughout the season. Arlington player steps into the sideline. The disc had gone out of the sideline, and she will come back to the point at which it exited the field. She brings it back in, and again, Cambridge is now in a zone defense also, and that was effective in that case because it encouraged the Arlington player to throw to where the Cambridge player was able to knock that disc down. Of course, they turn it right back over, and it looks like Arlington is on the break. But there you go. Just like that, it's Cambridge disc, and just like that, back to Arlington. Again, Aneem's camera work is allowing you to pick up the fact that, again, there's a 3-person kind of triangle or cup. They each have their arms raised, making it difficult to see where the passing angles are. And again, quite effective in this case, again, with wind also playing a small role. And Cambridge zone defense turns out to be just as effective. Cambridge player is now getting up in the count. She runs the risk of not letting up. She got rid of up. They're now going to have a discussion about whether that was indeed a stall, meaning that the marker had gotten to 10, and Cambridge agrees, so it is a turnover. That's an example of a stall count, which is that count that goes from 1 to 10, which each marker is allowed to do once the person they're guarding catches the disc. If they do get to 10, that's called being stalled, and that means again that the Frisbee goes right over to the other team and they can begin on offense immediately. Arlington has managed to hold on to the Frisbee for a number of passes now. They haven't made too much progress up the field, but they are looking confident in terms of passing to each other, and they are wearing the defense out at the same time. Then they in turn take a big shot up the field. Very nice long pass and well caught, but that last pass once again eludes the Arlington team. Cambridge picks the disc up once again on their own goal line and tries to at least, again, that that Frisbee will have to be played wherever it goes off the side of the field. So the fact that it rolled down the field a little ways means that Arlington will start that much further back. They bring it into the sideline. That pass you just saw was called a dump pass. It means going right to somebody just behind you. Because again, you can pass the disc in any direction. That's a nice forehand up the field. Completed to an Arlington player, and they're once again knocking on the door. Of course, oftentimes the last 10 or 15 yards are the hardest to make on the ultimate field. There's something about the allure of the end zone that seems to induce turnovers a lot of the time as well. That was a very nice pass by the Cambridge player. Good 25 yards up the field. Completed pass as well, which is always good. Nice play from the Arlington defender, who grabbed that Frisbee right out of the hands, but then in turn threw it out of bounds, so it will be Cambridge Frisbee right on the sideline. The Arlington player drops the disc for the Cambridge player to pick up, and once again you have a sense of how claustrophobic a zone defense played right up against a sideline can be. You can see the Cambridge player has 3 Arlington players very close to her, and of course one of them just got the block there. Whoops. That was an errant pass. Cannot help but think that that was not at all the intention of the Arlington thrower there. That was a very nice forehand throw that couldn't find a receiver in the end, but nonetheless, this is also a territorial game, a game of strategy involving field possession and field position, and so Cambridge again making Arlington work the Frisbee 60 yards up the field and hoping that they might get impatient somewhere in there and make a mistake. Arlington once again looks very close to scoring, and they do. So 2-0 Arlington in front of Cambridge on this lovely May day in Cambridge, Mass. One of the things you may note is that Arlington's team is bigger in terms of numbers. Looks like Arlington's players 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, maybe 12 players, whereas the Cambridge team looks like they are fielding about 8. And that's quite significant because, again, on a day like today where there may be a lot of turnovers in some points, those points can be quite exhausting for the players out on the field who are, again, running back and forth quite a bit until, again, one team or the other scores. So I saw a Cambridge player go prone there once the point ended and get a little rest, and that's no surprise. They may even have called a timeout just to kind of regenerate some of that energy. This is a physically challenging sport. So clearly a timeout has been called. I'm not sure which team would have called it, but oftentimes at Ultimate Games you can have, each team has 2 timeouts per half. Again, if today's game is to 13 or 15, half would be then at once one team scores 7 points or 8 points, depending. So probably there's at least 2 timeouts allowed per team per half, and one of those teams has taken this opportunity for their first timeout. The Cambridge coach is busy using that timeout to do that teaching we were talking about before. He's describing clearly and acting out a little bit something about the defense that he is wanting people to play. One thing you may notice is that in addition to counting, the person who is marking the Frisbee, or the person who is the defender on the thrower, is also generally going to try and force that thrower to throw one direction or the other. They are not going to just stand passively in front of the thrower and allow him or her to throw either the backhand or the forehand as they wish, but rather the defensive strategy is to try and take a field which is entirely too big to be able to defend if you have to do the whole thing, and direct the offense into a much smaller portion of that field so as to make the defense's job a little bit easier. And that strategy on defense is called a force, and most of the time a team will opt for one of 3 forces. It will be a force forehand, where you're trying to get the offensive team to throw their forehands, or it'll be a force backhand, and of course you're trying to get them to do the opposite and throw their backhands. Or it could be a force middle, and that just means you're trying to force the offense to throw to the middle of the field, away from the sidelines, and of course that changes depending on which side of the field the offense is on. So those 3 forces, force forehand, force backhand, and force middle, are the normal person-to-person defenses in Ultimate, and the calls that would be made. So you'll notice that if you focus on the thrower and her defender through the rest of the game, you'll see that the defender most often is trying to get the thrower to throw in a particular direction and trying to cut off at least a whole portion of the field, so as to help their fellow defenders only have to guard against throws to one sector of the field. All right, looks like Arlington is making their way back out onto the field. 7 players on the line, and Coach Ralph out there to direct them. And I imagine the Cambridge team will huddle up briefly here, and all right, and give a little Falcon cheer, and then they will have 7-step out on the line for them. Once they are ready to receive the Frisbee, they will raise, one or more of them will raise an arm to indicate to the throwing team that they are ready, and the pulling team will acknowledge, and then we'll throw off and the point will begin. There's a nice long pull that unfortunately also went out of bounds. Most of the distance that it traveled was outside of the field, so it will come back to the point at which it crossed the sideline and went out of bounds, and the Cambridge team will take the disc from that point. They also have the option to move to the middle of the field for this very first throw in the point, and they have chosen to do so. So they're taking the disc from the middle of the field. It looks like Arlington's still in a zone with that cup right around the thrower, and a long throw attempted, intercepted by the Arlington deepest defender. Fortunately, that first pass was problematic, and Cambridge now has what we would call a short field in which to work. They're maybe 10, 15 yards out from the goal line. Let's see how they do. And they've scored. 2-1, Arlington. And you can see the Arlington players jogging back to get ready to receive the Frisbee for the next point. And quite often when you have a short point like we just saw, one that is over in less than a minute, you will keep the same 7 players out there. And here comes Coach Ralph to provide some more instruction. Hopefully let them know how they can avoid doing something similar to what just happened, which is giving the other team the Frisbee about 5 or 10 yards out from the goal line, which is something you never want to do if you can avoid it. Right, ready for the start of the 4th point. And again, as soon as Coach Ralph moves off the field, the Arlington team will signal by raising their hand that they're ready for the disc, and we will get going with this 4th point. Comes the pull, and there's a nice roll to it to give it another 10-15 yards of space. Arlington picks it up and gets the Frisbee moving right away, which is always a good idea. There's 3 passes and a turnover. So again, it's a nice pass up the field. And another attempt. This one up for grabs, and the Arlington player makes a nice defensive play. Again, facing a zone defense, you can see the front of the zone. Oh, that was a nice pass. Unfortunately, Arlington player not able to hold on to it. Here again, they are facing a zone going the other way with that cup right around the disc. Oh, a diving, what we call a bid in Ultimate. The diving bid made by the Arlington player, may even have gotten a hand on that pass. Great defense in the end zone. All right, Arlington passing the disc around inside their own end zone, always a little risky. And again, Cambridge has a very short field to work with, and almost scored, but not quite. Arlington will once again bring the Frisbee up to the front of the end zone. Bring it in straight. Player's supposed to walk straight up from the back of the end zone where that picks up the Frisbee, right up to the front, and they've now moved their way around to the other side of the field. Up, there's a problem. Arlington will have to make the transition to defense and guard from just 1 yard out. Cambridge has an opportunity to tie this game up, and not quite. Arlington might be advised to throw the Frisbee up the field, as she just did, just to get a little bit more ground to work with. And there's a turnover back the other way. Arlington will come in on the sideline, and they've gained maybe 5 yards or so. There's a pass to the dump position and a pass around the side of the zone. Well done. They keep the Frisbee moving backwards and forwards, backwards to the side. Again, you can use the entire field, and you often need to, especially when confronting a zone defense, where a lot of the times they are inviting you to be able to go around them, not through them. She'll come up right to the cone, right on the corner of the field, at her own end zone, and the first pass is backwards. Drops in the end zone. That means that Cambridge will bring it back to the end zone line and have to complete just one pass here to even this game up at 2. And oh, had it, and then it was gone. Arlington makes a little headway in terms of territory. Puts the zone back on. Encourages Cambridge to throw it backwards first, but then Cambridge again tries to get it into the end zone, again defended by Arlington's staunch deep defense here. Arlington really showing that they have a good idea about how to attack a zone. Go backwards and then right around as best you can, and then take some shots maybe through the middle, as you just saw, right through the zone. You don't want to do that too often, but as the zone gets tired, as the defenders get tireder, it becomes easier to find those gaps. Arlington's worked its way almost all the way up to midfield. And again, a throw backwards as it leads to a throw around to the side like that and up the field is just what you want to do against most of the zones. Some nice coaching on display there for Arlington, who's showing that they really do know how to attack the zone. It's a turnover, but that after a really nice little run up the field of 60, 70 yards. And that's what can happen with a zone defense. Not sure if Aneem picked that up in close-up or not, but that is what happens when you have 3 people on defense around the disc and you're trying to throw it past them. Sometimes you throw it right into them. And it looks like one of the defenders may have been hit in the face by the Frisbee. They're checking on her right now. And we'll see if she chooses to come off the field. Looks like she's going to, and that there's somebody who's going to come on to substitute for her. That's called an injury sub. In general, you are not allowed to sub during a point in Ultimate. But of course, if somebody does get injured, as it's the case here, then they have an opportunity to go off and get treated. And of course, the team has a chance to replace them. They don't have to play a person down or anything like that. Now, Arlington's just brought the Frisbee in and has it now right on the end zone that they're going for. But there is a conversation. Looks like Arlington may have brought the Frisbee in a little bit too quickly there. And so they come back and they're going to restart from the beginning. I think the Cambridge coach pointed out that his team was not quite ready when Arlington brought the disc in before. And because Ultimate players are in general very good sports, Arlington, upon hearing that, immediately came back and willing to just start again. And the disc is in. Back and around. We've seen it various times. Nice defense. Very nice defense from the Cambridge player right at the last minute, saving a goal. Arlington once again, though, approaching how to attack that zone defense in exactly the right way. Dump and swing is the terminology for that. And it is a very enduringly effective approach to offense in Ultimate. Cambridge now stringing a few passes of their own together. And again, that temptation to go right over the defense and get the disc way down the field proves too hard to resist. It is a turnover. It will be Arlington's disc on the sideline, but Cambridge has gained some ground again with that longer throw. And there's the advantage that they get. There's a turnover right away for Arlington, thrown backwards, so Cambridge has a much shorter field with which to work now. They themselves look to dump and then swing, and there was an overhead pass, which was ambitious. You may not have seen one before. It travels in a different direction from usual, and if one of the players throws another one, I will explain further. For now, we won't worry about it. Arlington is now looking for a person to guard. They're playing person-to-person defense. You can tell that there are one-on-one matchups all over the field. Cambridge throws into the end zone, and the Arlington defender is there. She leaves the Frisbee. There are 3 different positions generally on offense in Ultimate, and the person coming up with the disc right now is probably playing handler. There are usually 3 handlers on an offensive set, and they are the people who are going to be, no surprise, handling the disc the most, bringing that disc in from any stoppage of play, etc. And then the next layer are called middles, and usually you'll have 2 middles, and then you'll have 2 deeps. So handlers, middles, and deeps are generally the way that offenses are organized. I overheard one of the players on a turnover going to pick up the Frisbee and stopping herself by saying, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm not a handler." And that means she was going to leave it for one of her teammates who is, again, more used to picking up the Frisbee and getting that first throw off. Right now, again, Arlington goes backwards and to the side in a dump and swing, and then tries to follow that with a further pass up the field, which results in a turnover. Cambridge comes back and turns the disc over right away. Again, Arlington continually has the right idea, even as this point gets longer and longer because there are execution problems. Strategically, Arlington really is taking the right approach to how to deal with the zone defense. And they seem capable of defending their end zone against almost every threat right now. There's a long shot up the field, just out of reach of the Arlington player, but now Cambridge is going to have to work about 40 yards up the field. Arlington a little slower getting their defense on now, but now it's set. We'll see what Cambridge does. There's another shot up the field. Arlington's got the disc and looks to go right back up the other way. Nice catch, sliding catch there. Arlington stringing a couple of nice passes together, and as I mentioned earlier, a lot of times as a point goes on, it gets a little bit easier to find the gaps in the defense because it's just harder to get those legs moving on defense. And particularly for the people who are up playing in the cup, in that first layer of defense right near the disc, they have it tough as that point goes on. That was a lovely long pass up very close to their end zone and just missing on the scoring pass. However, Cambridge has to now work the entire length of the field. We'll see how it goes for them. Arlington's defense still seems energized. Cambridge does take the opportunity to basically do what might be called a punt. And that's just not really thinking that they're going to complete the pass, but just get that Frisbee up the field some and give us a little bit more room to defend. Oh, very nearly completed there. Found its way into the hands of a Cambridge teammate, but she was not able to hold on. Arlington making progress. Sometimes making progress means going backwards and around. No options right now. Up there we go. Back and around. And you can see, again, gaps opening up a little bit on the defense. And Arlington catching the disc just close to the goal line. And again, that final pass, always the toughest one. Looks like Arlington's going to have another shot, though. Maybe 10 yards out or so. It's hard to tell. It's far away. And that shot misses out the sideline. Arlington's defense is still looking very lively. That's a beautifully connected forehand about 25 yards up the field, giving Cambridge some breathing room. But again, you see Arlington and the number 4 for Arlington, who's playing in the cup, showing great energy, continuing to wave her arms, make herself as big as possible to make the Cambridge player's job that much more difficult in terms of passing to a teammate. There's another throw. That one looks like it's into the end zone. Not quite. Again, Arlington knocking on the door, and this time they score. And the lead balloons to 4-1 in Arlington's favor. I stand corrected. Thank goodness for Aneem. He is right. It is 3-2. I forgot that Cambridge indeed had evened the game up at the end of the last point. So it is 3-2 Arlington. As I said, I stand corrected, but that's why we are a team here at ACMi. And Aneem has to listen to all my commentary just so that he can correct me at those important moments when I need that. As we wait for the pull on the 6th point, I should mention that while both of these teams seem pretty young, and I think a lot of the girls are out here are getting among their first experiences in playing competitive ultimate, Arlington girls ultimate has been around for a number of years now and have some quite distinguished alumna among their ranks, including most recently Clara Stewart, who is from Arlington High School in Arlington, is a Northeastern University senior this year, but she was part of the under-20 U.S. national team that won the World Championships 3 years ago in 2019. So Clara is also a standout player at Northeastern, which has a very good women's ultimate program, and Clara is one of the absolute pillars of that program. So she has certainly reflected very well Arlington's ultimate pedigree. And then we also have Keziah Wilde, a current junior at, a current sophomore at Middlebury College. And Keziah is a national champ as well. She and her Middlebury College teammates won the Division III National Championship for college women's ultimate last year. And Keziah was named one of the all-tournament players. So at those tournaments, 7 players are selected among all of the participants to be the all-tournament team. And Keziah was one of them, along with one of her teammates, who was also the most valuable player at the tournament. So Middlebury did well, and Keziah, again, representing Arlington both honorably and very effectively. So who knows which of the girls we are seeing today and this season may follow in Keziah and Clara's footsteps, but if they do, we at ACMi hope to be here to chart many of the steps of that way. All right, the teams are coming back out onto the field, getting ready for point number 6. Again, the lead is 3-2 to Arlington at this time. I take that back. It has to be even, so I think the score is 4-2 Arlington. I'll start again. And the teams are back out on the field for this 7th point of the game. Arlington leads 4-2 and will be pulling from the far end zone. Their coach is just coming off the field. As soon as they know that Cambridge is ready for the pull, which Cambridge will signal with a raised hand. Arlington awaits. And there they get 7 raised hands in response, and here comes the pull. There's a pull right to midfield and over near the side of the field, which again may make things a little bit easier for the zone to be effective. Cambridge, nice throw up the field. Oh, nearly snagged by the Cambridge player, just off the tips of her fingers, and Arlington starts to move the other way. Both teams continue to play zone defense, and Arlington takes a shot up the field. Cambridge comes right back the other way, and just, again, beyond the outstretched fingertips of a teammate. Arlington players are standing around a little bit, and that's always a problem. Need to be moving and giving your thrower an option or two. All right, Arlington stringing a number of passes together, looking up the field, and there's a turnover. Cambridge comes back the other way, but Arlington, 2 defenders merge at the disc, and it's a turnover and Arlington disc. Not for long though, and this is a great illustration. The thrower, it looked like she had thrown it and it hit the ground and it was a turnover, but I believe she is calling a foul. one of the distinguishing features of Ultimate Frisbee is that it is a self-officiated game, and there is an understanding that you will make the honest call both on offense and on defense. And the offensive player in that case did call a foul on the throw, meaning that in some way she felt like her throw had been obstructed in a way that wasn't fair. Perhaps there was inadvertent contact on her arm as she was letting it go. Could be any number of things, but she then calls a foul. She and the defender might discuss the matter for a couple of minutes or some seconds, but in the end that defender will have to honor that call, and in this case that meant that the disc was returned to the thrower, and basically a do-over happens. So that is the way that calls often go in Ultimate, because it is often the offense calling a foul call on the defense, either as a thrower or as a receiver. Because sometimes a foul can be called when somebody's trying to catch the Frisbee, or even when they're trying to cut sometimes. And all those calls get worked out on the field. There are, except at the highest levels in most competitive tournaments, there are no referees. Again, the idea right at the heart of the sport is that the players will work these things out for themselves. Written right into the bylaws of the sport is something called the spirit of the game, and that is something that all players are asked and meant to subscribe to. It is truly the ethos at the core of the game that says, again, you will make the honest call, you will work things out, you will remember that you're playing a game, and that with good communication and good spirit, things can always get worked out. We've been watching a series of back and forth here, with Cambridge ending up with the Frisbee right around midfield, which interestingly enough is just where they started this point. There's a shot down the field, very nearly ricocheting off the Arlington defender and into the Cambridge player's hands, but Arlington holds on to the disc. There's clearly somebody wide open up the field. She's got the Frisbee now, returns the pass. Arlington again making confident progress up the field. Another nice cut. These two players are working it back and forth between the two of them, and finally looking for a third one of their teammates, and that didn't quite work out. However, hot potato is what it looked like there for a second on the Cambridge side. Nobody wanting to hold on to the Frisbee for more than a second or two, which sometimes is a very good idea. And Arlington now very close, 2 yards out from the end zone. What's going to happen? They go backwards, get themselves more space, come over to the other side of the field, and again, patience is required when you're this close to the end zone. Arlington showing it here, taking whatever's available. Oh, and just again, missing on that final shot into the end zone. I'll tell you folks, from 36 years in the sport, I can tell you that way more turnovers happen on the pass into the end zone than at any other point on the field. And that is true at all levels. Nice throw up the field and a completed pass. Well done came from the Cambridge side. Now they are again back at midfield, looking to advance the disc even further. And thwarted by Arlington's interior defense. Arlington's defense always alert to the opportunities as the Frisbee comes up in the air. You hardly ever see them surprised. That means there's good communication coming from the sideline as well, undoubtedly, from coaches and teammates, helping defenders know what's happening around them as they focus most of their attention on the person they are defending. There's an inadvertent drop on Arlington's part, and it is Cambridge disc once again. A little bit tough here on the sideline, close to the sideline as they are, but she manages to get the throw away. Coming right back the other direction. Arlington players showing some patience. Several nice catches, and into the end zone, and a score. And the cheer goes up from the Arlington sideline for a very well coordinated sequence of passes, resulting in a score. And I've just heard that the coaches are announcing that it is halftime, and the teams will be taking 5 minutes to get some R&R, and back into battle they will go. We will take a short break ourselves. We'll be right back. And we are back with the first point of the second half. Arlington has thrown off or pulled to Cambridge, who are coming up against the traditional, well, I'm calling it now the traditional Arlington zone because it's just about all we've seen from Arlington today. Cambridge tries a long throw, and it's Arlington disc. Working a little bit through the interior of the Cambridge zone, and now going around the side. So showing you the two options. You can try and work the gaps in the middle of the field, or you can go right around the side, which was going well until an alert Cambridge defender decided to make her presence known. Cambridge tries the same idea of going around, and the Cambridge player nearly caught it off the Arlington player's back there. That would have been a showboat catch, that's for sure. Arlington looks like they may be poised to score once again. They're showing good patience, again going around the field, one side to the other. And unfortunately, that last pass just falling short. Cambridge comes back, and it's Arlington Frisbee again, and right back into the other end zone, but no completion. Cambridge comes back to the front of the end zone again. You'll see that right by the cone that demarcates that side of the end zone. Right up the field and right into Arlington's hands. A little bit of a pattern there. And just over the head of the Arlington player and out of bounds, it's Cambridge Frisbee. Looking up the field, and Arlington player picks it up. Nice grab, shoestring catch from Arlington's player number 27. Again, names will be forthcoming in future games. Apologize for the fact that I'm not yet familiar with our roster. Again, Cambridge not having much luck trying to go over or through the Arlington zone. Arlington, again, looking to go around in general. Looking to move the disc around the Cambridge zone, and generally having some good results from that. You can see Arlington players moving in short bursts, which is generally what tends to be most effective against a zone. You're not moving in long lines, like long cuts like you would against a person defense. But instead it's short bursts looking for little gaps or the natural next movement of the Frisbee, just where it makes sense to look for the next in a sequence of passes. Both defenses staying quite alert and very effective here. So nice shot up the field, but no Cambridge teammates around. Arlington tries to come back the other way. Perhaps could have taken another second or two with that pass. Nonetheless, nice completed pass for Cambridge, and they're working their way slowly in the right direction. Nice hustle play by the Arlington player there, number 7. Snatching the disc out of the air when it looked like it was headed to be a turnover. Very nice forehand, right through the middle of the cup. Continuing around the side, that disc moving makes the defense really have to work hard. And again, as I have mentioned earlier, those legs start getting pretty heavy once you get into the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th minute of a point. It's a lot of running back and forth. Cambridge player completes the overhead pass. Very nicely done. Again, that's a pass that generally follows a completely different arc from the forehand or backhand pass, which usually will fly flat with the head of the disc up. The overhead or upside down or hammer throw is released more like a tennis serve and kind of comes off at an almost vertical angle and turns upside down in the air. So it is particularly effective in getting Frisbee up and down. And look at that, the Cambridge score happens at the end of a very confident sequence of passes. You see the Arlington player also congratulating the Cambridge team as she walks by, and that's a great example of the kind of sportsmanship that lies right at the core of this wonderful sport of ultimate Frisbee. That was an impressive offensive display from Cambridge over the course of the final 40 seconds or so of that point, and a well-deserved 3rd point in their tally. Arlington leads 6-3. The ranks of Cambridge players seem to have swollen some, seem to have grown at least some from the beginning of the game. They started with just 8 players on their team, and looks like they have acquired a couple more, a couple latecomers, and probably all to the good, because they are playing at a more energized level over these last couple of points. And we'll see if they can capitalize on this really nice little offensive run that led to this most recent point as they seek to now defend. They do have too many players out on that line at the moment, so somebody's going to have to come off, and I see number 21 now making her way off of the field. All right, we await the Cambridge pull. Again, the score, Cambridge 3, Arlington 6. There's the pull. Arlington will need to work the disc up for more than half of the length of the field. The wind is picking up just a little bit, and you could see it on that throw there where the player didn't release the Frisbee with quite enough snap, and it was immediately floated up into the air and above her intended target because, again, the wind is gusting just a little bit. You know, I would say that judging from what Eric said about how great Cambridge is being for them, maybe they don't, maybe they don't have a time that they have to clear the field by. I don't know. Tough turnover for Arlington in their backfield is going to leave Cambridge. Oh, looks like maybe 20 yards out from the goal. There's a fake by the thrower that did elicit a reaction from the cup around her. Nice throw out to the sideline and up into the end zone. Oh, just past the Cambridge player. Very nearly pulling within 2 of Arlington there. And they may still have that chance. Arlington brings the disc in on their own goal line. And straight to the Cambridge player. Again, once again, alert on defense. And they have indeed scored, bringing the game within 2. 6-4, Arlington leads. As the players make their way back to the line to receive the next pull, they may be thinking a little bit about the fact that they're making things a little bit easier for their opponent than they might want to by being not as careful with the Frisbee near their own end zone, the end zone that they're defending, as they might like, because in turning the disc over several times and therefore giving several opportunities to Cambridge to complete just 1 or 2 passes in order to score, you're playing with fire when you do that too much. And Arlington has been burned on a couple of occasions in this game so far. So that'll be something that coaches, I'm sure, will be mindful of going forward, that they want to reiterate to the team that those turnovers back where, when you're near your own end zone that you're defending, those turnovers are particularly costly. So that's part of the education that these young players are getting today and throughout the season, undoubtedly. Team is ready. They raise their hands. Raised hands all around, and here comes the pull. Looks like they might get a bit of a roll, and they do. Picked up by the Arlington player just this side of midfield. Uncontested first pass. Nice catch on the second. Again, Arlington players looking a little static right now. And not a surprise, perhaps, that turnover quickly follows. Arlington comes right back with the defensive play. And let's see if we can be a little livelier. That pass not quite on the mark, but then neither is the return pass. Arlington players are going to also need to learn that trying to force the Frisbee through the middle of the field against the zone is not often going to work out. Now they're beginning to find the gaps in the defense. And again, showing good patience as well. Good concentration to catch that tip disc. An alert Cambridge defender had tipped the disc, but nonetheless the Arlington player was able to catch it, cast the disc up the field, and it is a turnover. Here comes Cambridge. Also showing excellent patience until that shot right there. Cambridge player with the disc right there, the only left-handed player I've noticed on the field today. And ultimate, like as in many sports, dominated by right-handed players on the whole. And there are some advantages to being a left-handed player, just in terms of some of the angles that you can get with a Frisbee. That's one of the fundamental things about ultimate Frisbee, is that the object at the heart of the sport is a Frisbee, which flies differently. Look at that, a bobbled catch, nonetheless successful. A little bit of suspense that leads in turn to some distinct euphoria. So not only have Cambridge climbed back within one, but they've done so with a dramatic flourish. I was saying a little bit just before that score, and Arlington has just called a timeout, let me say, and that is not a surprise given the momentum that Cambridge clearly has, having scored 3 goals in a row now. After falling down by 6-2, they are now within 1 of tying the game. So Arlington coaches feel the need to regroup, and I'm sure they are busy doing so on the far sideline. I was speaking a little earlier about the fundamental differences between a Frisbee and a ball. And again, a Frisbee thrown with by a left-hander is going to have a slightly different spin and also different arcs to it. And that can sometimes be an advantage for the thrower and or his or her receiver if they're familiar with that, the fact that their teammate is a lefty and taking advantage of it. You can see some illustration going on by the coaches on the far sideline as they're talking to the Arlington team, and again, looking for opportunities to do some teaching, to make sure that they are presenting reminders and guidelines that will be helpful not only for the rest of this game, but for the rest of the season and beyond. And following an Arlington timeout meant to try and squelch the kind of roller coaster momentum here of Cambridge, who have reeled off 3 points in a row. Let's see how effective this timeout is in blunting that momentum. Cambridge ready with the pull, and there it is. Arlington looks like they might have a couple of uncontested passes before Cambridge is down on the defense, and they're almost up to midfield. They seem, I have to say, right off, they seem calmer in this offensive possession coming out of that timeout. So perhaps indeed it had the desired effect. That was very nice offense all the way through and just off the receiver's fingertips. And right back up in the right direction, except looks like they're reverting to what they were doing the previous time, which is just throwing the Frisbee up the field rather than taking easier throws closer to them, such as they are doing right now. Arlington alert defense. And they find their way up the field. Sequence of 5-yard passes, which is always a good idea if it's available. Longer passes tried, and again, a turnover. Cambridge also now takes the pass that was available to them and then tries a longer one. And again, with similar results. A completed longish pass puts Cambridge right on the cusp of tying this game. And they have. That is 4 in a row for the Cambridge Falcons. All right, well, we have quite the game here now, folks. All tied up with the time cap approaching. This game is going to be decided, it looks like, within the next 5 or 10 minutes. So Arlington will have the first opportunity to be on offense here as they receive the pull. But it has been a tough stretch for the Mau. And they're going to have to figure out how to turn this thing around. Cambridge having reeled off 4 straight points to tie the game as we approach the very latter stages of today's contest. So Coach Ralph moves off the field, having prepared her troops as best she could. Cambridge ready to pull, waiting for acknowledgement from Arlington that they're ready, and there's that signal, and the pull is off. Arlington races up to meet it. Cambridge defenders are in place. And it's a turnover right away for Arlington. Tough one right off the offensive player's hands. Nice sequence here from Arlington. Again, quite calm until an ill-fated decision to try to test the middle of the zone defense. It's really not something, a gamble that has paid off very well for Arlington so far. Cambridge tries the same thing, and the pass was there, just off the receiver's fingertips. Whoops. It's a quick turnover. And alert defense on Arlington's part. Though they will discuss whether there may have been perhaps a strip was called, and that gives me an opportunity to describe what that is. If the offensive player feels like they had the disc in their hand and would have caught it but for the defensive player's insertion of a hand, then they can call a strip. That means that they felt like they had possession, the offensive player had possession, and that the defensive player hit the disc out of their hands while it was in their possession. In such a case, and if the defensive player agrees, then it's considered a completed pass. In this case, they talked it over and they determined it was not a strip, and so the turnover instead, and Arlington now has the Frisbee. Once again, facing a zone defense and trying to decide what to do about that. They tried to go out to the sideline, and this goes out of bounds. Cambridge can take the lead. Down big until, just saving play from the Arlington defender right in the corner of the end zone. Very impressive little defensive alertness there. And nice job to move it over to the other side of the field, get it out of the end zone, and then the pump all the way up the field, not successful. Coming back, and again, long pass that does not pan out. And looking to go around the side of the zone as we described, always an effective technique. Again, each one of those passes is a little easier in and of itself than that single pass you try and complete right through the middle of the defense. There's another illustration. Cambridge turns that Frisbee over, and it's hard to tell how this game is going to go. Looks like there's a slight interruption here while somebody who isn't quite aware that he's stepping right through the middle of a Frisbee game, waiting for him to clear off the field. And it looks like he now has. And Arlington will take the disc in once more on the sideline, with the entire game in the balance at this point. This comes to the middle of the field, and unfortunately that next pass is not executed. Arlington's defense still keeping their hands up and showing great alertness. Just drops to the ground in the end zone between 3 Cambridge players. Whoops, that looks like it's going to sail out of bounds, and it does. Arlington comes in with the disc on the sideline. Arlington showing good patience until, yes, the pattern that we have seen before throughout this game is if they can string a sequence of 4, 5, 6 passes together, none of them more than 10 yards or so, and then it happens to all ultimate players. You get a little greedy and push it further down the field. There's a completed long pass, putting us right. I shouldn't say us, putting Arlington right on the edge of the end zone and in. Arlington back in front. By my count, that puts Arlington up 7-6, and it's very possible that with the time cap, the game may just well be being played to 8. In which case Arlington needs to score one more point to win outright. And if Cambridge scores the next point, we'll have perhaps what is called an ultimate double game point, universe point. It's been called different things at different times, but it means the teams are tied at a particular score and the next score will win. We may be in that situation if Cambridge scores this next point. Right now it's 7-6 Arlington, and they'll be pulling and seeing if they can score and perhaps put this game away. There is a breeze, as we've noted out here, and it's become, throughout the course of the game, a little bit more markedly in one direction. And I would say that at the moment, Cambridge holds the advantage in terms of the wind or the breeze, which is blowing to their backs and is going to make it much more difficult for Arlington to complete passes, especially if they attempt long ones in the direction they're going right now. So we'll see how this goes as the teams look ready and the coaches begin to come off the field. We await the pull with what may be, or for what may be, the final point of the game. Arlington holding the disc aloft, ready to pull. Get the signal from Cambridge, and here comes the pull. Again, a roller, which just gets that Frisbee over the midfield mark. Arlington begins in a zone, no surprise. And Cambridge takes the one available open pass. What will they do next? There goes up the field. And Arlington disc on the sideline, and they get it going right away. Always a good idea on that transition from as your team moves from defense to offense. If you can get that Frisbee going right away, you're going to have an advantage, because the defense, of course, has trying to adjust from having been offense just seconds before. Oh, a Frisbee that was nearly caught. Would have been a very nice catch with the angle that the Frisbee was coming in at, but she couldn't hold on, and it's back to Cambridge. Again, trying to go through the zone is always tough, and an alert Arlington defender put an arm on that. It's perfect pass to the Arlington coach, ACMi D, on the sideline, receiving that catch, or that pass. Nice try into the end zone, but again, the end zone curse. Oh, looks like the thrower called a foul, and the defender is not contesting that foul, so that means that the thrower will once again begin with a count of 0. We'll have 10 seconds in which to throw the disc. She goes for the dump, and then there's the swing up, not able to hold on to it. But again, trying to throw through the middle of that zone is tough. Arlington just 1 yard out from the end zone at this point. Will they stay patient? And they do. Oh, but cannot come up with the catch. pause for an equipment timeout, which does happen in Ultimate. Shoelaces get untied, etc. You got a minute. Everybody just is patient, and we're back in play. It looks like not many options for the Cambridge player, and they do find a way to get the Frisbee down the field. Probably a very smart play in that case. Oops, especially because Arlington quickly turns the Frisbee over and Cambridge has gained that much territory. Once again in the same position, they again throw the Frisbee down the field, and it is complete. Cambridge marching. Could they be putting us at the cusp of universe point? Oh, just over the outstretched arms of the Cambridge player waiting in the end zone. They came very close there. Arlington has it all to do now, though, because they've got to travel 80 yards up the field and into a breeze. There's a good start, though. They're nearly to midfield, having completed 5 passes in a row. Make it 6. And again, looking for the available easy option and staying patient, not trying to get too much at once. Nice catch made. Oh, defended right at the last moment by Cambridge. Arlington now has another chance, though. Will they try and get it all in one go, or will they work through a sequence of their teammates in a controlled way? So far, they're keeping it in control, and there it is. That's the game, folks. Arlington withstands a tremendous comeback from the Cambridge Falcons to win this game 8-6 from Danahy Field, and with the full celebration going on amongst the Arlington team. This is James Milan and Anemos Mani bidding you a happy afternoon, and we'll see you for the next coverage, ACMi's next coverage of Arlington High School Ultimate.